Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Hello, and welcome to Champions of Psychology, a show with the goal of openly talking about mental health and gaming, presented by Codename Entertainment and TakeThis.org. Every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/CNE Games, Mitra Jordan and Raffael Boccamazzo, aka Dr. B, talk about mental health and how gaming affects us. If you're with us live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show. And our topic today is studies have shown. So
what have they shown, Trevor?
They've shown things.
Empty vessels making a lot of noise.
Do you know what studies have actually shown? That Mitra and Dr. B can switch places without knowing.
Absolutely. And we are. Did you know that we share an awful lot of DNA? And by the way, that means we're the same person.
No, but we're different now. The Freaky Friday moment has changed. I am back to being Lindsay Lohan.
Are you? It's the hair. I should have guessed.
Oh, you're not Fred Savage? That other
no,
movie?
No, actually, I suspect I'm Jamie Lee Curtis in this.
I am not Lindsay Lohan.
Okay, fine. I am Lindsay Lohan.
You can be Lindsay Lohan. I'm not sure I can be Jamie Lee Curtis. She's like awesome attitudes and like and awesome legs, and her body's almost like hinge free. It's like remarkable. So no matter how much DNA we share, it's just not going to happen.
Well, since I'm not doing the show with Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis, who are you two for the fine folks who may not know?
God. Well, I guess I'll go first, like always. I'm Mitra Jordan. I'm a registered clinical counselor and psychotherapist working in Victoria, British Columbia. I see individuals, couples, even families. Sometimes games come up. I really like it when they do, but my clients are free to discuss whatever is actually significant to them. So that's how we roll. Yes, good. And find people. Who are you people? I just showed up here. I don't know anyone.
Well, my name is Solomon McGinty. I walked in off the street. They put a bow tie on me, put me in front of a microphone. And
who's they?
I don't know.
Who is
it
they?
the Illuminati? Like what?
I don't know.
We're not even in the same cities.
We're not even in the same country. My God. I'm Dr. B, Raffael Boccamazzo, Dr. B for long Italian name reasons. I'm a clinical psychologist in Washington State, and I'm the clinical director of what remains the oldest nonprofit in games, TakeThis.org. I am an expert on the applied use of tabletop RPGs in clinical and learning settings, and I occasionally see clients as well. So, and it's also important. I'm a consultant on the YouTube channel How to ADHD, and that's actually relevant to what we're talking about today.
Extremely relevant.
Very relevant.
Yeah.
To be
it's
fair,
generally relevant, and it's never been more relevant than today. Okay, maybe it has, but I don't know. It's pretty relevant.
I suppose we should explain a little bit more what we mean by the title of the show being "Studies Have Shown."
Yeah.
What we're really talking about today is science communication, science communicators, and that sort of thing. The way of getting scientific information out to the masses, and how sometimes that doesn't go well.
Nah.
So why is this important?
Well, it's important because I have met so many researchers who are amazing researchers, because research is such a refined skill set, and so many of the researchers I have met cannot communicate to the average person their own research. And in addition, the way we do see research presented in popular media, it's like the local news, it is often so sensationalized to the point of being useless. And so there are these people called science communicators who are at this rare intersection of being able to understand the science and communicate it reliably to the average person. And those people have such an extraordinary skill set.
Yeah.
We want to talk about like what's important about like that skill set and communicating the essence of up-to-date research to people.
Mm-hmm.
And also not like the nightly news.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, we talk about this all the time with food, you know.
Yep.
Oh, butter's out now, butter's in, and you should have it with your coffee.
Strawberries do what to me now?
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Coffee's bad. No, coffee's good.
I'm sorry, what did you say about coffee?
What?
Don't you say a bad word about coffee.
You don't talk about coffee.
We don't talk about coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, we do not talk about coffee. How many octanes in your coffee though?
Depends on the preparation method. Are we talking drip? Are we talking AeroPress? Are we talking pour over? Are we talking espresso?
Whatever showed up at my door this morning.
Nitro cold brew. I do them all.
Yeah.
This is just regular tea from a tea bag. Now, I am a person who really likes my loose leaf tea at the correct temperatures, but this be your regular, bottom feed-in Earl Grey.
I love Earl Grey. But I mean, okay. So as we're talking about like science communicators, who are your favorites?
Well, it depends on for what. No, please go ahead.
I mean, we talked a bit about some of these folks in our pre-meeting yesterday, and the ones that like I definitely wanted to get for mine was Brian Cox, no, not the actor, and Hank Green. Brian Cox is British. I believe he's an astrophysicist. Maybe. I can't remember. He's a science guy. He does science I don't know. But the thing is, though, is that he's so extremely good at explaining this stuff, and also one of the most relaxing British voices you've ever heard in your life. He'll tell you that one day the entire universe is going to end and just implode in itself, and you're like, yeah, no, that's great.
Hold on. More than David Attenborough?
No, okay, but David Attenborough doesn't go around talking about black holes and stuff. Like, he's just like, look at that squirrel. It's so nice.
Today on the Serengeti.
Oh, God, yeah, no, he's
that
awesome.
was actually really good David Attenborough.
yeah. But if we're speaking of David Suzuki as well.
Mm.
Yeah, he has a little bit more of an edge to him,
Okay.
Understandably. He's got a little bit more of an edge. He's later, obviously, than Attenborough. So he's more about, we're killing everything, essentially. But also look at this amazing stuff. Look at this amazing, beautiful world, which, I love. Plus, he's Canadian, so maybe I'm biased. But,
I want Counting Coup in the chat call out Carl Sagan as well. Absolutely. I mean, the original Cosmos is absolutely stunning. By the way, this is really weird. This is the thing that I was into for a long time. I think they're still up on YouTube. Someone took things that Carl Sagan said in Cosmos, auto-tuned it, and put like lo-fi in the background, and it's some of the most enjoyable listening, because you have this nice lo-fi. It's like, we're all made of star stuff. And it's like, yeah, we are.
Okay, I'm really into it.
I can get into that. I can get into that.
Listen to that while I work.
That sounds really great. Yeah.
And then Hank Green, I mean, just one of the best that we got right now. You can go look up numerous YouTube videos of him talking about stuff, and it's just, he has a way of talking about it that is not only like pulls you in and you're interested, but you're learning stuff with it. And I mean, some of them, they got really cool graphics and whatnot. I absolutely love those videos. But what about you all?
Mitra?
Well, I really like How to ADHD. For ADHD info, I have suggested Jessica McCabe's channel to many people. So many clients who are trying to figure out if ADHD is something they're experiencing, just for them to get a sense of, do I experience that? Don't I? When does it happen? How much? Because I feel like her information is so well researched, and she puts a lot of thought into the experience of particularly women with ADHD, because I find that that's a lot of my older female clients really struggled in school. Even my mom really struggled in school and experienced a great deal of misunderstanding. She was really smart. She learned to read at the age of 5, 6, and she really just kind of wanted and needed to be encouraged by the pieces that were challenging her. Like she had a lot of struggles with math. When I think about my mom's experience in school, it really dovetails with mine and a lot of the judgment. But somehow, because we can sit down and shut up, the fact that we were having trouble learning just wasn't ever taken seriously. And I think this is true of many women with autism and ADHD, actually, in terms of diagnosis. So the more we can get that's helpful to people to understand their own experiences and contextualize it in a way that they can really relate to it, that's good science communication right there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't
we're
done.
taking turns. No, I was just gonna say we should take turns. So that's one of mine. So please.
Well, I mean, Jessica, I'm biased, but I'm not wrong. Just because,
but that's why I said it, because I found Jessica before you and I started working together, and I was referring Jessica's channel to clients well before I even. I mean, I knew who you were, but but we hadn't started to run this stream or get to know each other, any of that. So
one of my new favorites is actually Alexis Nicole Nelson, who is on TikTok and Instagram as Black Forager. She's a vegan forager who also sneaks in ethnobotany history into her videos. So I get cooking tips and ethnobotany lessons. It's incredible to watch. And she's just like, here's some advanced knowledge. And she won a James Beard Award for this. I absolutely, that for those of you who don't know, the James Beard Awards are like the Oscars of cooking.
Yeah.
And she won last year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Counting Q actually found the name that I was looking for, because I this was like almost a decade ago that I was listening to these. It's Symphony of Science is the name.
Okay,
that does these.
Gonna look that up
really
later.
Good.
So I'm going to call out a cooking one, actually. It just occurred to me, but I believe it's J. Kenzie Lopez Alt of Serious Eats, who has done a great deal to help us understand Harold McGee's on food and cooking. So many of you might not know, but I actually have a background as a professional chef, and On Food and Cooking by Harold McGee is like the Bible of really understanding the science of ingredients, how they interact, why they do what they do, why your souffle fell, how to make it not fall. But it's not really been all that approachable for people who just want to cook at home, but don't have a lot of money to spend on a book that's like literally that fat, massive tome. And who just really want to understand how to scramble their eggs better or some such thing. So Kenzie Lopez Alt has really made this much more accessible and really explaining how food works, how ingredients work. And he's written a book called The Food Lab. He's an excellent food science communicator in that way. So,
and I got to throw in there Bill Nye. I mean, let's just call him. And what's fascinating to me, one, Bill Nye got his start in Seattle, filmed the show in Seattle, actually started on a local sketch comedy show that nobody but Seattleites know about. He had a character named Speedwalker as a hero who stopped crime by following the international speedwalking rules of heel to toe. He never ran, but Bill Nye is so good. Oh, Rough Rider. Yes, almost live. It was our SNL in Seattle.
Cool.
But Bill Nye is so good at distilling basic science concepts down for a lay audience that is it is just it's so amazing to see back when he was doing the original Bill Nye the Science Guy, and also some of the stuff that he did some science experiments on almost live, and they were amazing watching him build trebuchets.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I when I was a kid, I loved him talking so much that when the show would cut to like, and now the kid's out on a field trip, I'm like, I don't care.
No, I don't want to talk to the kids.
I don't care what they're doing. Just Bill, throw science at me.
Yes. Science rules.
Science does rule.
Does.
Yeah.
I did want to call it one more that I had forgotten about that I'd put on here that someone put in the chat was Michio Kaku, another fantastic person to just understand science with. He actually had a Science Channel show like a decade ago where he was like trying to get sci-fi technology to work in modern day. Like one of the first ones is like, we're gonna try and build a lightsaber. It was really good.
I'm gonna take it back a long way briefly to one of the first really excellent anthropologists, Margaret Mead.
Oh, Margaret Mead
don't think we talk enough about how the social science is communicated. And of course, that's kind of my area, because I think there can be so much miscommunication. And it takes a lot of skill to actually be in a community and do really good and effective field work. And so there's a few anthropologists who came after her, and really kind of all of them set the standard, but she was one of the first really accessible writers about her experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and this is why we're talking about these science communicators, because like, as someone who talks to researchers on a fairly regular basis, at least in my field, the thing about researchers is they communicate peer to peer. Like you have to have an extreme foundational and a really high degree of foundational knowledge to talk to them about things, because they're communicating at their level, and at their level is advanced and nuanced and filled with a lot of yes, buts, alsos, and equivocations and so forth.
Yeah.
But all of the people we are talking about are so good at essentially meeting their audience where they are.
And so I have a really unique one on that front.
Yeah.
So Emily Nagoski has written a book. Like she had, and I think it's pretty easy to find, she had a blog as well. And so she talks a great deal about trauma, attachment, sex and sexuality, and how to have a better time in bed, essentially. And what are the things that interfere with having a good time in bed? And so instead of just talking about desire and which is kind of the gas, if you will, it's like the more desire, vroom, let's go, she talks about the brakes. What puts the brakes on good sexual experiences? And so she's written this fabulous book called Come As You Are. Emily Nagoski, love her stuff. And I know, right? I know. Look at him. He's like 12. I know. I get like that too. Who can help it themselves? Some of us right now telling the stories and, being all sciencey for the science crowd. And yeah, look at you. Anyway.
Really broke him. That one really broke him.
Beautiful. I'm sorry. I'll try to fix Dr. B later.
Well, then how about we talk about we switch over to like what are the challenges of this, because we've talked about folks who do this well, but there is challenges when it comes to it.
Oh, I have one more thing to say about Nagoski.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Under a pen name of Emily Foster, she has written 2 extremely steamy romance novels.
That's incredible.
But the brilliant part is, if you read them, you will learn so much about trauma, how it lodges in the body, about sexuality, what does and doesn't turn people on and why, and what can happen, and just a much broader understanding of traumatic experience, attachment, and connection. all done with these 2 books. It's fantastic. It truly is. And it's so much fun. And the first one's called How to Fall. And the second one's called something. It'll come to me.
Dr. B
But
taking notes.
How to Fall, Emily Foster. Same as Emily Nabat. Oh, yeah. Okay. You love the cover. That's awesome. Yeah, she's such a good writer. Anyway, enjoy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in those books, she talks all about. Okay, I'll shut up now.
No, it's,
But
it's okay.
yeah,
I just want to make sure we got some time to talk about the challenges of this one. I do definitely think this is a good list of folks for people to look up
Yeah.
and whatnot, and I hope you all do.
Dr. B has more.
Yeah.
He's back now.
No, I well, Trevor is asking like what are some of the challenges? Knowing what to eliminate. Like there's so many things about high level understanding of any expertise, any field of expertise, because there's so many things it depends on, like answers. Like you talk to anybody who really knows their stuff, and they're probably not going to give you a simple answer.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to say, well, it depends on a lot of different things. And so people who are really good at communicating science to people know what parts they can eliminate and still get the essence of the message across.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a real skill set.
Yeah.
Not everybody's good at that.
No,
because our brains are reductive. In other words, our brains want the simple answer that makes sense to us. And our brains do this thing where we use heuristics, which are basically shortcuts.
Mental shortcuts.
In terms of mental shortcuts to understanding and to kind of parse out information and place it within our particular bookshelf, right? We have a kind of internal library. And so that's what we're kind of going for, is where does this fit in my internal library? And if you say it depends, and I don't have enough context to place it in, it can be super confusing for people. It's like bloody scientists. They just never tell me the truth. They're just never giving me the full answer. Eggs are bad, eggs are good. Who knows? You tell me, in this circumstances, they're not so great. My cholesterol. So it becomes super confusing. But that's why people aren't giving you a clear answer. There's a lot of factors. Yeah.
Right. And, well, I mean, and that's really what this comes down to. The reason, researchers are going to often give you so much bloody information that you're just like, I can't, no. But really good science communicators are able to say, okay, there's a lot more to it than this, but here's something you can latch on to. Like, I'm not an astrophysicist, clearly, because I can't even pronounce the word. But if somebody comes along and gives me these mathematical formulae about Hawking radiation, I'm going to look at it and just my brain is going to melt out my nose.
There's some weird runes you got there.
But if they come along and they're able to say, okay, well, Hawking's radiation is like the one type of energy that can escape a black hole. Well, I can latch on to that because, what do I know about black holes? They're big, nothing escapes from them. Oh, this one thing does. It's a form of energy that does. Cool. I understand that. Now somebody with more advanced knowledge is going to say, yes, and there's more to it. And I'm going to be like, I'm good. I'm good. Because that's what I need to know. Okay. That's the essence of what I need to know. Yeah. As an utter lay person who is not going to ever be doing astrophysics formula.
Yeah. Well, it's not, I think it's also not just knowing what stuff to eliminate in the first statement, because if you're having a conversation, there's follow-up questions. Like someone could tell me, it's just like, oh yeah, we know that there is a binary star in this section of the galaxy with this many exoplanets on it. It's like, okay, well, how do we know that? And knowing how to just kind of be like, oh, well, we know it's a binary star because of this effect that happens when we look through it with this kind of telescope, and when things pass by it, we can count it and do it like that, and knowing which things to take out of it and not give this TED talk on it is that is definitely a skill to know how to do.
Yeah.
And I think I know my friends will usually follow that up with, does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think it's very difficult in that moment, I have to say, when someone says, does that make sense? To say, no, it really doesn't. Because we also want to please our speakers. Like, I and sometimes the way it's communicated, you have to really check in with yourself. The intention is not to make you feel stupid, right? And here I'm going with my memory of one of the math teachers I had for my master's level stats course. I'm just going to remind you all, it was a room of baby therapists, right? And so we're mostly word people. And so he'd get up there, and I don't know, maybe he shouldn't have been teaching therapist stats, but in any case, we had to learn it. I have to know how to read a journal article and understand what the study is actually. They're telling me that there's statistical significance, but I'm really questioning it. They're telling me it's generalizable, but your study was based on all white, quite privileged students age 18 to 24. I have questions about how generalizable, how much this can apply to a broader population. Anyway, so he gets up there in front of the board and he's like, okay, this is easy. By the way, I can't tell you the alarm that would set off internally. It's like, oh God. That means if I don't get this, I'm a complete moron, right? I don't know anything, right?
There were classes that I would take that the professor is like, this is easy. And under my breath, I go, for you?
Yeah, it's not. And I think that's really important in terms of a good science communicator. They will not come in with assumptions, that you understand some of the basics, but they will also explain or refer to the basics in a way that leaves you understanding more without feeling bored. It's like, so if you're communicating something about, in my case, say, trauma or the body, I might start talking a little bit to, now remember, we're talking about just how much regulation we have in our system, which is how calm we are, how present we are, how grounded we're feeling. And then, when you have trauma, blah, blah, blah. So it can be done in a way which is accessible. And I think that's so important, whatever the science is about, as you said, like the black hole example. I don't know anything, but I kind of get the piece around Hawking's radiation, even though I don't know much. That felt good, right? Leaves us feeling better, leaves us feeling more informed. And like, okay, I wonder what else can escape a black hole, if anything. Now I'm curious, right? So it arouses the curiosity and the interest and leaves us feeling like we learned something.
So far, I've only seen one thing that can survive a black hole, and that was Matthew McConaughey. But
oh no, he's always all right.
Oh God.
He was just so laid back. The black hole was like, you know what? I'm gonna put you out near Saturn.
Even gravity can't get his attention.
Okay, let's take a quick break to remind our viewers of our disclaimer, and then we'll be back to talk a little bit more about some of the interesting challenges and obstacles to science communication. We'll be right back.
Yep.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.
Okay, so in the challenges of this, there's one area that we wanted to touch on real quick, and it's a group that regularly talks about studies have shown, and that's the news. How's the news with science communication?
Awful.
Terrible.
Well,
The news
because-
is looking for sound bites.
Exactly. The new, and I'm going to talk to the United States especially. Okay,
That's fair.
in the United States, televised news is a business.
Yeah.
Okay, it is. They give information, but they earn their money through achieving ratings.
Yeah.
And so what they're going to do is give you the stuff that's going to make you want to watch.
Yeah.
And so regardless of the scientific accuracy of something, regardless of whether it's been replicated at all,
Yep.
they're going to show you they're going to talk about something that scientists say that, I don't know, playing violent video games gives you appetite. I don't know, just appetite for destruction. They're gonna say whatever they're gonna say to get you to watch.
Yeah. There was a comedian I watched like over a decade ago that had a ongoing joke about like the news bites. Like it was just like when they would interrupt like a commercial thing to be like, come back and find out. It's like I really wish that sort of thing was around, like, during Kennedy. It was like the president visit Dallas. How did it go? Find out at 11. And I thought that was a joke. Like I laughed at that. I'm like, oh, that's a funny joke. But as a kid, I pretty much swore off the news when I was like 14 because I was watching TV and my local news station literally had a commercial break that said, "Is an asteroid headed for Earth? Will it impact? Find out at 11." I went, "No, we're done. We're out of here. We're cutting it off. I can't do this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything causes cancer. Wine is good for you.
Well, that's the thing. The studies have shown they keep saying that they don't tell you where the studies are. They don't tell you where they've been published or if they've been published or who was even behind them. They just say studies have shown. Well, and now
they don't get into the methodology, which is, like Mitra brought up, is so important because, okay, ladies and gentlethems, here is something for you to take home in terms of science methodology. Okay, there is something called external validity, and what that means is how applicable is what we've learned in a isolated scientific context to the rest of the world. And if, like Mitra brought up, the entire sample that they take from is white college students, which is often a thing between the ages of 18 and 24, does that apply to, Black folks over the age of 55? Probably not.
Yeah, that's the thing with a lot of social science studies. So psychology in particular, which uses large sample sizes, but often conducted within narrow population groups, right? So you can do a study across, say, several universities, for example, right? Because it's easy to kind of propagate the study question and have a few people kind of be the authors of such a study.
And give them extra credit for participating.
That's right. And so you've got, a large study of even a few thousand people, right? But they're all going to be, most of them, they'll usually look at specific age groups. And it's great if it's accurate to that age's experience, right? If I'm doing a study and it's got to do with how young college students are feeling in 2023 and what their particular stressors are, but I'm not kind of separating for culture or gender, then sure, I'll get that general picture, but I'm not going to understand better what maybe female college students or Black college students or immigrant college students or refugee college students or something.
Or people who don't even go to college.
Or people who don't go to college who are in that age group, right?
Right.
And so that's the biggest problem. But you're telling me this is generalizable to the population, and that's the word they use. Is it generalizable?
Right.
But the bigger question that you need to ask when looking at material like this is, what is the research question?
Yeah.
Because it's not just the research, but it's the specific thing they were looking for.
Super narrow.
And so what is the research question? And what is the study design?
Yeah.
Because the research question then led to a study, but was the study well designed to answer that specific question?
Mm-hmm.
It might not have been, right?
Yeah.
So
Or was the study designed specifically to find the answer they wanted?
Right.
There's an
right.
episode of Adam Ruins Everything, which is just one of my favorite shows ever. That was talking about hydration, and essentially how like there was this huge campaign of like, you have to stay hydrated, you have to drink this much water, you have to do all of this, you drink
Based on what
Gatorade.
data?
Gatorade hydrates you, and it turned out that a lot of those studies were actually funded by Gatorade.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's
those
the
were just
other
spread
big
everywhere.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who funded it?
Well,
And who seeks to benefit?
bingo.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
that's why if any of you ever go and read scientific journals, the journals have discussion sections that talk about the limitations of the studies. And yes, exactly, lurking writer, 100% of people who consume dihydrogen monoxide will die. I mean, that's it. The dihydrogen monoxide, satire is a perfect example of how things get sensationalized. And so if people don't have foundational understanding and they don't look at the limitations of the studies, and often the news definitely doesn't report on the limitations of studies, whether it's the narrowness of the scientific question, the sample population, the fact that it's a pilot study, and it often is when it gets reported in the news. They just don't talk about those limitations. But, and here's, kind of getting into the media literacy aspect that we seem to be transitioning into. That's what really good science communicators will let you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things good science communicators will let you know, that there are limitations to these things.
So just so that we have time for a couple viewer questions at the end here, we want to talk about media literacy, and I kind of wanted to jump ahead to like, how do we know who to listen to?
Yeah, and it isn't always easy. For instance, there was a whole bunch of diet related work done by somebody called Ansel Keys. And it seems like an awfully broad study because it involved 7 different countries. But when you start looking more closely, a lot of the data was cherry picked for specific kinds of information. And so it's interesting because a lot of people kind of took that particular set of studies around heart health, cardiovascular health, and diet, and ran in a specific direction, which wasn't necessarily helpful to our understanding of how to eat. But this is the kind of thing where there's something we always do. We always eat, right? There's a stake in how to eat, what to eat, when to eat, and there's so much conflicting information because there are people who cherry pick, right? There's a lot of people, for instance, invested in Atkins style stuff or keto stuff, or they're producing stuff like that. And so are they funding some of the studies? Probably. So, yeah.
Well, so, I mean, like for me, if I think about media literacy and like who am I going to watch? There's two big things that I look for. One of them is, who do the professionals in that field follow?
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the things I will say, we've talked about Jessica McCabe, How to ADHD. And this is something that we joke about at home, that I had to get a doctorate to do what I do. She jokes about being a community college dropout, and she's got the professionals that she's got the leading researchers in ADHD contacting her.
Yeah.
So that's a clue right there. But also, this is another thing. Do they only tell me what I intuitively think is true? Are they confirming my worldview?
Yeah.
If I am following a science communicator who only confirms my worldview, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. It's also just
Absolutely.
like that concerns me, because I'm like, well, you're saying things that I had already believed, and I don't know everything.
Right.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, that's how we got concepts like rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which has no peer-based support. Now, rejection sensitivity has a ton of research and evidence behind it.
What's the other one? The one that
Object permanence.
Object permanence. It's like, yeah, it's like,
Oh God.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's a whole thing.
I
That's
literally
a whole
did
thing.
an
Let's not get
Instagram
into
story a
that.
few weeks ago about that, where I'm just like,
Mhm.
don't say that.
But I mean, that's how we, because both of those concepts feel so intuitively affirming
Yeah.
to us that they caught on when rejection sensitivity is a thing, and it's not isolated to ADHD or autism. It's across a lot of diagnoses, and it has to do with a lot of different factors. But rejection sensitivity dysphoria feels validating, but as a scientific concept has zero peer-reviewed support. And I have a whole series of rants about that, on how it's just bad science.
Yeah.
So that's it. Are they confirming my worldview, and who do the professionals follow?
Yeah.
Right. And what's the history? And are they able to talk about the history with any intelligence? For example, back in the 90s and early 2000s, there was this whole thing on attachment parenting, which talked about you always had to wear your baby in a sling and a bunch of other things. And they actually weren't connected with John Bowlby's work on attachment. It was really interesting because they were using this term not accurately, and they got really, really popular. And I thought at first, because I had young kids at the time, they must be kind of talking about this, but they weren't. They were talking about a tribe in Africa that carried their babies, and which is awesome and important. And there's a lot of useful work that's been done on that particular tribe, in fact. But what they weren't talking about was kind of a connected history. So if you're following science writers, and social science writers as well, are they referring to previous work that's been done in the field? Are they connecting current work to that? Are they disclosing special interest groups or their funding? And are they kind of giving you other resources? The hopeful piece is that they also are giving you other resources you can look at to corroborate the work that they're sharing with you.
Do they show their work?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they show their work and the processes behind it?
But you're also talking about something else that's important for science communicators. Are they staying in their lane? I think about the science communicators who maybe were once respected, who fell out of favor, like Dr. Oz, who was an incredibly he was a renowned thoracic surgeon, but he started talking about a lot of stuff way outside of his lane.
Yeah.
And he was getting, it was promoted. We talked about commercialized content. Is there a conflict of interest? He was promoting stuff that made him money. Yep. And so those are also red flags to me. Are they going out of their lane, and are they having commercialized stuff?
Yeah. And the thing that they're doing that's really bothersome is they're actually leveraging their own capacity and intelligence. Like, he's a renowned thoracic surgeon, and he's using the fact that he's a doctor and a medical professional to promote work that has nothing to do with his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Right. And so Deepak Chopra did the same thing. Here's this guy who was a very well-known, I think he was an internal medicine specialist, actually. And he ended up, so he was looking at sort of health and wellness and how it impacts internal medicine. And he goes off into this big thing around spirituality. But that's not his area of expertise. And in his writing, he doesn't seem to refer to other experts in those other areas. So he's not looking at philosophers who've written a lot about this, or current research in psychology, So that was really bothering to me, because people listen to what these people are saying, but the basis of their knowledge, their own training, isn't at all related. Well, sorry, rant again.
Well, and you're getting into from my own media literacy when looking for experts. How often do they say, this isn't my area of expertise? Like, are they acknowledging, do they have humility in that? And somebody who's willing to say, hey, this isn't my area of expertise, I can speculate, that like I am willing to listen to them. And listen, but understand that they may not be giving me full information, but they've already earned some credibility with me in being able to acknowledge their limitations. But also another one is, how hyperbolic are their claims?
Oh yeah.
Like, are they saying something that's off the wall, bucking scientific, consensus? Sometimes there's truth there, but a lot of times it's just out there and not based in anything.
Yeah. I wanted to hit one of these viewer questions before we gotta head out. We're gonna go with Reaver01, and then we answered this a little bit in this topic, but just kind of hit the nail on the head for it. Question: what can we do in our everyday lives to help promote science literacy and science communication?
So don't just pass on, because social media, people share a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
If you're curious or interested, there's places to check out the validity. Sometimes people will present something, and if you just Google the thing and then say critique or science validity, you'll come up with some information. Sometimes people present things as if they were science or just even events that happen. And I like Snopes.com a lot for just checking out urban legends, but also kinds of hyperbole. Sometimes they have useful links to better understand that. So part of it is just not randomly passing things on.
Yeah.
Or if you do, it might be with, hey, I don't think this is true. Does anyone else know more about it? Can also be really useful so that we can all learn more. So
yeah, that's a good call. Just even being able to do an internet search for, certain claim and validity or critique or contrary, something like that can turn up a lot. That's such a great skill set to have. The other I look for is what's the source, and I will very frequently, if it's a journal source or a media source that I don't know about, I will search that company and see what are their biases. Now, biases aren't always a bad thing, because it just means we need to take certain things with a grain of salt. Now, if somebody is like an extreme in one direction, then I'm like, this could be self-serving. But, everybody has biases, and do the sources acknowledge that?
Yeah.
Yes. Are they disclosing the bias?
Yeah.
Are they saying this is where I'm coming from, or this is my experience, or this is what I'm looking for?
If there's like a study that's just like powdered cheese is great for you, and you dig into it, and it was
I'm sorry, there's powdered cheese.
But it's funded by like Cheetos in the Cheetos headquarters. It's like
I'm in. I want to know about. I will brush my teeth with powdered cheese.
The thing though that I also wanted to throw in there is not taking the information from one source in one type of media. So it's like, I learned all of this stuff from this one person on TikTok. It's like, oh, well, have you looked up any YouTube or anything like that? Have you looked at other sources of people talking about this sort of thing? Because like the thing with like I love astroscience and stuff like that, and so I will get several different books on it, or I will watch several different people about it, and they may have conflicting things about it. And if there's something that I'm interested in that's conflicting, then I go Google it.
Well, let's go back to one particular example, and this could be a really interesting thing. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria. There's no peer reviewed evidence about it that I've ever seen, and all of the this is the creation of Dr. William Dodson, a psychiatrist, and people often, it appeared in Attitude magazine, Attitude magazine. Well, he's on the board of Attitude magazine, and so there's a little bit of a conflict there.
Sorry, Star Chaser almost killed me. Ancient aliens might not be true.
What?
Well done.
Yeah.
Hold on. What? So okay. like all of these articles on rejection sensitivity dysphoria point back to these these articles that appeared in Attitude magazine. Well, Dr. Dodson's on the board of Attitude magazine.
Yeah.
And it's not peer reviewed.
Yeah.
So, following the sources back.
Yeah, following the sources back, and who stands to benefit. Like we said, there's who stands to profit, but who's trying to make a name for themselves, right?
Yeah.
I want to be associated with a whole new dysphoria. Let's just, so yeah.
That's life goals right there.
That's life goals.
When you think also, dysphoria, you think of this face.
Yeah.
Hi.
Also just want to point out that my backyard says otherwise about the alien things. There's a big round object. Oh, wait, no, that's just the trampoline. Never mind. Right. So because lots of big round objects in crop circles and things, so I think that there are interesting, if something seems super sexy and exciting, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe crop circles aren't immediately aliens, right? So I know I hate to be such a killjoy.
I have watched a total of 30 seconds of Ancient Aliens, and it resulted with me screaming at the television because they're like, no one knows what writing this is. I'm like, that's Sanskrit. I learned that in college. It was a first level history class. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. Well, it's about time for us to start wrapping up the show. And I wish I could give a good reason that there's a show coming up after this, but it really is. I have a meeting to go to.
It's all about what's
reasons.
Convenient for him.
Yes,
See,
yes.
that's how the science problem starts.
Yeah, this
Anyway.
excuse was peer reviewed.
Studies show that Treavor needs to eat.
Folks, where can people find you on the interwebs if they would like to do so?
I'm at Mitra Jordan right on Twitter, and I'm at mitrajordan.com. Otherwise, easy, simple, basic. Dr. Boccamazzo, it's everywhere.
I do have
All
that
the
Infinity
time,
Stone.
all at once. Sorry,
Infinity
movie
Stones.
reference. Couldn't help it.
I do have that Infinity Stone, the Space Stone. Yeah. Someplace.
Why
But
won't he share? Sorry.
I am around on the Dr. B on all the social medias. That's TheEDOCTORB as in boy. But you know what's more important? Follow TakeThis.org. You can stay up to date on all the stuff that we're doing, all the free mental health resources that we put out into the world, that we have our really awesome crew of clinicians and researchers write, and then we have often somebody else make them understandable. A second person will go in and say, hey, make this readable by normal people.
Yeah.
And so that's all available for free on our website at takethis.org.
There we go. And you can follow me on Twitter at the Treavor. There's an A hiding in there. I don't post science stuff often, so don't go to me for that. But that's gonna do it for this week's episode. Thank you to Jordan and Mars for moderating the chat and doing a fantastic job. They need Codename Entertainment and Take This for giving us opportunity to have these discussions. This week, well, like I said, there's no show on after the season. Sean is off for this week, but I believe everything else is normal. I believe you can check that out on our Discord, our Twitter, and our Reddit for our Twitch schedule. Yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and that's gonna do it for this week's episode. So until next week, take care of yourself. And now I just remembered I have to have the other screen open so I can take us away. All right, bye.
Champions of Psychology is meant as education and entertainment. It is not a substitute for medical advice or professional counseling. Discussion of mental health topics will be primarily rooted in research and the personal experiences and self-disclosures of the hosts. While we can provide generalized education and possible mental health resources, we cannot offer any recommendations, advice, or opinions for any specific persons, cases, or situations. We provide these resources and links at our sole discretion, but have not necessarily vetted or reviewed any resource. We assume no liability for the use of the information or resources on these sites, and we encourage you to use your own best judgment.